Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Every year on the third Monday in January, Americans celebrate Martin Luther King, Jr. Day. On this day, they honor the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Who was Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., and why do Americans dedicate a whole day to him? Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. was an American civil rights leader. He was a great man who worked extremely hard to achieve equality and justice for all Americans, no matter their race. However, the majority of his work was focused on seeking equality for African Americans. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. His father was a pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church. His mother was a talented organist. As a child, Martin Luther King Jr. was very bright. He attended Booker T. Washington High School, where he skipped both the 9th and 12th grades. At age 15, he started college. Martin Luther King Jr. earned a degree in sociology from Morehouse College. After that, he went to seminary. Dr. King also earned a doctorate in theology from Boston University. He decided he wanted to be a pastor, just like his father. In 1953, he married Coretta Scott. Soon after that, he began to play a major role in the civil rights movement. He even helped organize the infamous Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. It was during this boycott that Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus. One thing that set Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. apart from other civil rights leaders at the time was his focus on nonviolence. He did not believe in using fighting and other forms of violence to solve problems. Instead, he held marches, gave speeches, and participated in civil protests. Dr. King gave many speeches, but his most famous speech was the I Have a Dream speech. He delivered the I Have a Dream speech on August 28, 1963, during the March on Washington. In that speech, he called for an end to racism and shared his hope of a brighter future for America. By 1964, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was known around the world. That year, Time magazine named him the Man of the Year. In 1964, Dr. King was also awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his nonviolent resistance to prejudice. He was the youngest person to ever receive the prize. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. continued to work to improve race relations and fight for equality. However, there were many people who did not like Dr. King. One of those people was James Earl Ray. On April 4, 1968, just one day after giving his I've Been to the Mountaintop speech, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated by James Earl Ray. Today, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy lives on through his family, friends, and people all around the world. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is a time to reflect back on the life of Dr. King and remain focused on continuing the work he began.